The Young and the Restless spoilers. The battle for power. Jack's strategic move. Diane Jenkins stared at the documents on her desk, her hands trembling with anger. The betrayal was deeper than she had ever imagined. Kyle, her own son, had stolen confidential company files from her and handed them over to Victor Newman. It wasn't just the act of theft that hurt. It was the realization that Kyle, in his hunger for power, had chosen to align himself with the very man who had spent decades trying to tear their family apart. For Diane, this was the final straw. She had always known Kyle had a reckless streak, but stealing from his own family crossed a line. Standing beside her, Jack Abbott watched Diane's fury with a deepening frown. As Kyle's father, Jack had always tried to walk the fine line between discipline and understanding, but this time, Kyle had gone too far. The boy needed to be taught a lesson, one that would force him to understand the consequences of his actions. Diane, her eyes flashing with rage, turned to Jack. "You can't let him get away with this, Jack. He's out of control. He's thrown his loyalty to this family away, and you need to make him pay for it." Jack's face tightened with the weight of the decision. Deep down, he agreed with Diane. Kyle's ambition had morphed into a dangerous game of greed and deceit, and if they didn't act soon, he would only spiral further. But punishing Kyle was a delicate matter. Despite everything, Jack still loved his son, and the last thing he wanted was to push him away completely. "I know," Jack said, his voice firm but calm. "Kyle needs to learn that there are consequences for his actions, but if we come down too hard, we'll lose him." Diane scoffed, her patience wearing thin. "We've already lost him, Jack. He's not the boy we raised. He's become reckless, arrogant, and disloyal. If we don't do something now, we'll lose Jabba to his selfish ambitions. You have to act." Jack leaned back in his chair, contemplating his next move. He knew Kyle's weaknesses better than anyone. His son's greatest flaw wasn't just his ambition. It was his jealousy. Kyle had always struggled with envy, especially when it came to other people's success. He had an innate need to prove himself better than everyone else, a trait that had driven him to his current predicament. And then, a thought struck Jack, a way to teach Kyle a lesson that would hit him where it hurt most. "Kyle's downfall has always been his jealousy," Jack said, his voice thoughtful. "And I know exactly how to use that against him." Diane raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What are you thinking?" Jack's eyes hardened with resolve. "Theo Vanderway." The name alone sent a shiver through Diane. Kyle's cousin, Theo, had been a thorn in Kyle's side for years. The two had always been at odds, constantly vying for control and dominance within the family and at Jabut. Kyle had despised Theo, and the feeling was mutual. When Theo had been sent to Paris to manage Jabot's European operations, it had seemed like the perfect solution to their constant rivalry. But now, Jack saw an opportunity to use Theo as a tool to humble Kyle. "Kyle has always hated Theo," Jack continued, "and bringing him back into the fold, into a position of power, will hit Kyle where it hurts. I'll offer Theo the co-CEO position at Jabot, the one Kyle has been eyeing for years. If anyone can outshine Kyle and make him realize the consequences of his actions, it's Theo." Diane's eyes lit up with understanding. "You're going to bring Theo back to Genoa City? And give him the position Kyle thinks he deserves?" Jack nodded. "Kyle needs to understand that loyalty and integrity are what matter in this family and in this company. If he can't show those qualities, then he doesn't deserve the title he's been chasing. Theo has been doing excellent work in Paris. He's hungry for success, and I know he's been waiting for an opportunity to prove himself here in Genoa City." It was a brilliant plan, and Diane could see the wisdom in Jack's approach. Kyle's jealousy of Theo had always been his Achilles heel, and bringing Theo back to Jabot would force Kyle to confront his own shortcomings. And if Theo proved himself worthy of the co-CEO role, well, maybe Kyle didn't deserve the position after all. "And don't forget," Diane added with a smirk, "Theo has always had a way with women. Claire has caught Kyle's eye lately, hasn't she? Imagine how furious Kyle will be if Theo not only takes his job but also steals his girl." Jack chuckled, though there was a seriousness in his tone. "Kyle needs to be humbled. He's been too comfortable, too certain of his position in this family and this company. It's time he realized that his actions have consequences." Diane couldn't agree more. Kyle had been given too many chances, and now it was time for him to face the repercussions of his disloyalty. Bringing Theo back into the picture was the perfect way to shake Kyle's confidence and remind him that his place in the family wasn't guaranteed. The plan was set in motion. Jack made the call to Paris, and within days, Theo Vanderway was back in Genoa City, ready to take on his new role. As he walked into the Jabot offices, the air buzzed with anticipation. Theo had always been a wild card, charismatic, ambitious, and unpredictable. His return sent shockwaves through the company, and no one was more affected than Kyle. Kyle's rage was palpable the moment he saw Theo back in the office. His cousin, the man he had worked so hard to push out of Genoa City, was now being offered the very position he had been vying for. Worse, Theo was thriving, charming the board members, impressing the executives, and quickly gaining the trust of everyone around him. But what stung the most wasn't Theo's professional success, it was his personal life. Claire, the woman Kyle had been quietly pursuing, was suddenly spending more and more time with Theo. It wasn't long before whispers started circulating that Claire and Theo had become more than just colleagues. Kyle's world was crumbling around him, and it was exactly what Jack had intended. Watching from the sidelines, Jack could see the storm brewing within his son. Kyle's jealousy was consuming him, and Jack knew this was the only way to make him confront the consequences of his betrayal. Kyle had stolen from his own family, and now he was watching his life fall apart because of it. Diane, standing beside Jack, whispered, "Do you think he'll break?" Jack shook his head. "He won't break, but he'll learn. This is the only way." As Theo thrived, Kyle's resentment grew, and the tension between the two men reached a boiling point. It was exactly what Jack had planned. By bringing Theo back, he was forcing Kyle to face his own insecurities and failures. If Kyle wanted to regain his place in the family, he would have to prove himself, not through manipulation or deceit, but through hard work and integrity.